So I made crock pot stuffing, which I actually was intrigued to try because for people who host larger parties for Thanksgiving, it frees up space in the oven. So I was like, you know what, that sounds like a good idea. It's easy, minimal work and effort. You can prep it the night before, which I actually did. So I thought this was a great recipe. And it actually tasted pretty good, and it was fiance approved. So the first thing you do is you melt your butter down and you add your veggies. So it calls for celery, onion, salt, pepper. And you add all that, saute it, wait until the onions are translucent, about four minutes or so. Once the onions and celery are translucent, butter's melted, you add in your mushrooms and your garlic, and then you cook that for another 4 to 5 minutes, and stirring occasionally. And then after that, you remove the vegetables. That's pretty much the only thing you're cooking on the stovetop. The rest is in the crock pot. So after that, you start prepping your crock pot. So you'll put your chicken stock in the crock pot, 1 egg, parsley, rosemary, sage. I didn't use sage because I don't usually use sage in my cooking. I don't really know what it tastes like, so I omitted that, but feel free to add sage. And let's see what else. Oh, and the soup, so the cream of mushroom. I used cream of mushroom. I'm a mushroom person, but you can use cream of celery, cream of chicken, whatever you prefer. So you whisk that all together. Once that's all whisked together, you add your breadcrumbs. So you can use fresh bread if you like. I took the easy way, and I used Pepperidge Farm, the bag stuffing. I used the blue bag, but I know there's other bags out there, red and all that. But I used the blue bag. Dump that all in. You coat it with the egg mixture and the soup and the chicken stock. Make sure it's wet. Once that is all wet, then you add in your veggies and you fold that in gently. And then that is it. You cook it on high for 30 minutes. And then after the 30 minutes, you put it on low and you let it cook for 2 hours. And that is it. It cooks for you. You're done. Like I said, fiance loved it. He was like, this is actually really good. He's like, I didn't know it was in a crock pot. And like I said, it saves time, it saves oven space, which is important on Thanksgiving. And you can actually add protein if you like. So you can add sausage, and what it calls for if you do want to add sausage, protein, it says to brown the protein first, and then you can add it to the crock pot mixture. It lasts for about 4 days in an airtight container, and it says, which is funny, but it says to reheat it in an oven. I didn't. I reheated it. I made it prior to this, and I just heated it on the stove, and it was fine. But I'm pretty sure you can heat it in the microwave, however you prefer. But that is pretty much it. Super duper easy. I enjoyed it, and actually my mother-in-law I was talking to her last night, and she's like, can I have the recipe? She's like, I think I want to try that because I want to save some oven space because she has a pretty big party. So she's actually going to try it. So does anybody have any questions about the recipe? Yeah.
What's the consistency of it? Is it kind of thick and mushy, or is it more crumbly?
So she asked about the consistency. It's more of, I don't want to say mushy, but it is on the softer side. And it does say while you're cooking it to not remove the lid at all for the 2 hours. So that way it kind of gets like the harder, crust maybe a little bit on top, but it is more like a creamy, and that's what it says in the recipe too, that it is more creamy than like crumbly. You're welcome.
Mine is on page 5 in your booklet. I did sausage stuffing balls with cranberry pear sauce. So it's just a different twist. I've done it before. I've made the same recipe, and instead of rolling it into balls, just put it in the pan. So I just thought, I'll actually do the stuffing balls, roll into 80 balls today. It's something different, so you can just kind of see it. So again, nothing hard. And I agree with Alyssa. I did as much prep beforehand as I can. So on Wednesday, I cut up my onions and celery. So I did a double batch of everything. So that's, because there's going to be, I knew we had 80 initially to start, so that's why I did a double batch. So Wednesday night, I cut up my onions and celery. That was done. Thursday, I cooked my sausage. That's done. So yesterday, all I had to do was put it all together. And so it was a simple piece. After I did the pre-stuff, it's melting the butter in the pan, getting the onions and the celery translucent so it's soft. Once they're done with that, taking the sausage and the stuffing, I had a great big bowl, put that all together. It calls for, you can see it calls for the thyme and sage. I left it out because I used the stuffing with the seasoning. So I just thought I'll leave that. That will be enough. I did add a little salt and pepper, cooked up my vegetables, and then once it's done cooking, it says to put in your chicken broth. You could use vegetable broth. You could use whatever kind of broth you want. I use chicken broth. And then just set it aside. And then it was just gently adding it into the mixture with the stuffing and the sausage, getting it all moistened up. And then it asked, I had read something somewhere, I can't remember where, to kind of cover it with plastic for like 5 minutes, to kind of just let it just seal the stuffing before I actually pressed it into the balls. So it just made it a little bit more malleable. And then I just sat there, had music on yesterday, and rolled stuffing balls. So that's all I did. And so then I just put them in a container and I baked them here this morning. So it was super simple. This one does call for a little bit of a sauce. And you can see that is included. The cranberry sauce, red wine, which is optional. I did not have any red wine at home, so I left that out, sorry. Maple syrup and a pear. And so what you do is you put the cranberry sauce in a pan, and then you add the maple syrup and like just kind of let it gel. For 5 minutes or so, let it cook, get it to boil, then take it down to a simmer for 5 minutes. Then while I'm doing that, I had cut up the pear into bite-sized pieces, and then you just put that in there. And so that is the stuffing, or the sauce for the stuffing. So again, just a gentle consistency. So that's here for you to try if you so please with that. So I've done it both ways. My father-in-law loves cranberry sauce, so that's always a hit. I don't always make the cranberry sauce at Thanksgiving. It just depends because we all alternate who does what, but it's just an easy way to do it. Like I said, I've done it before with the balls, but usually I just do it in a pan, make it simple because it's less time, because then you can just pat it in there. And again, I do easy, so it's pretty simple.
All right, so I had to come up with something different. When we came up with this, was all about the stuffing. So I'm sitting there thinking, I could just see 80 different versions of Thanksgiving stuffing. So what else could we do? So what I ended up coming up with, it's called pepperoni bread because the bread is stuffed. You like that? All right, so let me grab the book so I can see what we're on here. This is in page 6 of the book, little booklet. All right, you guys, I've been a Reformed person. When I started this a long time ago, we'd spend all weekend preparing, cooking, and Suzanne said, you guys are nuts. So I have now graduated the Suzanne's Easy Cooking School. It's awesome. Plus, if you want time to do other things, All right, so what this actually is, I gave you this pepperoni bread recipe. It starts with, it kills me to use this, frozen bread dough. We could not find this at the Wally World. We had to go to Publix. So, I don't know, $3-4, you get 3 1-pound loaves. So this recipe calls for 1 pound. So I went ahead and did all 3 because I knew, we had a bunch of people coming today. There's instructions on the back. I didn't read that. But I will tell you that this stuff, I've worked with a lot of bread dough over the years, thousands and thousands of pounds probably. This stuff is cranky. You try to roll it out and it goes, and I'm like, no. Get it. I said a few choice words and I just beat it to death, and then it finally did what I wanted. But, so that's what we use for the bread dough. In your booklet, then you make up like this little sauce that you're going to put down first after you roll it out to about a 10 by 15 rectangle. It's 2 large egg yolks is what's going to go in the little sauce you're going to make. The Parmesan cheese, olive oil, parsley, oregano, garlic powder, and pepper. In the instructions, they're going to tell you to brush this mixture on the bread dough. No. I got my little brush. This stuff turned into like thick Elmer's glue. There is no way I could found to brush this. So what did I do? I took a spoon, I used the back of it, I scooped some out of the bowl, and I just went like this. That's how I got around it. For the filling, they tell you to use sliced pepperoni, mozzarella cheese, mushrooms, pickled pepper rings, green peppers, olives, and if you want to dip it, you can put it in pizza sauce. That sounds great, doesn't it? That's awesome. That's not what I made. So, I didn't know if people were going to like the pickled pepper rings and I was like, all right, time. So what I ended up doing was made it simple. I made up the egg mixture, put that down, and then I got some shredded triple cheddar cheese blend at the Wally World, put that down, and then, which by the way looks like this. See, I brought the packages so everybody could see. And because you guys, we got a big budget here, Hillshire Farm Black Forest thinly sliced ham. I laid it down like a deck of cards and just overlapped it. So, ham and cheese sandwich is what we're having today. Roll it up and then throw it on a one of these. Okay? If you want to get it off this, if you don't have some of this, it's the holiday time, go buy a few boxes. Parchment paper. If you're at Sam's, this is real thick paper. If you get this stuff at Walmart, it's probably just as good. But anyway, I've not had anything stick to this, so this is good stuff. All right, so basically I just put it on this 350 for about, they tell you 35 to 40 minutes. We were kind of pushing some stuff, so I think I pushed it to 45 to make sure it was done. So this is, once you roll it up, because it's supposed to be, 15 inches long. Well, if you've ever worked with something like this, what happens? It keeps, Plus, I was fighting with it was a whole thing. So this is kind of what it looks like. I don't want to slide off the tray, but we're going to slice it, and then what you should get is a spiral of that cheese and ham in each piece. Of course, you can put anything you want in it, I would think. Or pepperoni, like I called for, right? I like her. She's good. Okay. If you're going to do the bread dough, if you have a KitchenAid, specifically, if you don't, you can still make it. I would make that potato bread dough recipe I've got. That stuff works easily. The wife and I, we like that cheesy bread from that place that sells the toys. It's called Domino's. We do that once in a while. It's like $10 for a little thing. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. So I made up a batch of the potato bread, rolled it out, filled it full of cheese, folded it over, think of like an envelope. Then you put more cheese on top and you bake the whole thing. I figured I had maybe $3 or $4 in it, and you get a big piece that obviously will last you a little while. So that worked out really well. If you're going to go that route, I did not do the second rise for the cheese bread, and you don't with this either. In fact, I did this as a made-ahead last night, rolled it all out, filled it, threw it on the tray, threw it in the fridge. Got here this morning, threw it in the oven. So you don't have that rise time like you would with traditional bread stuff. Same thing with that cheesy bread. You don't let it rise the second time. It'll rise, trust me. I was surprised. I was expecting this thing to be this big around. It didn't. Now with the potato bread recipe, it will expand. It's soft. It's not hard, so that's good.
So not to brag, but I topped Suzanne as far as easy goes this month. So there's a little recipe up here on a half sheet of paper. I decided, maybe everybody didn't want like one more stuffing. So I actually made crab stuffed celery sticks just for something different. There's a total of 5 ingredients in there. So for the purposes of this class, I thought it would be easier for transporting things that just to let you stuff your own. So I have some celery here. The crab stuffing itself is just cream cheese, crab meat, and green onions. That's it. So I bought, again, I made a lot so that everybody could have some. So I got this at Walmart over like in the seafood section. This actually was really long, like crab legs. So I just put it in the food processor and put it on chop a couple of times that kind of, you know, make it a consistency that you could put in a dip. Very simple. And then what the recipe says is to take your celery, put the crab mixture in there, and then sprinkle it with the everything bagel seasoning. Just sprinkle a little on top. So I'm going to leave that up here if you want some of that. I personally think that you could even take something like this and make a cheese ball out of it because it's cream cheese texture. So if I made it again, I would probably make a cheese ball out of it personally. But
Hi everyone, I'm Angie and I love comfort food. So I did something a little different like Spencer did. I made mini pot pies. And let's see, recipe. So I have the recipe for everybody up here. I didn't make it in the book this time. So they're super easy, super good. I started off with 3 cans of the Pillsbury Grand's Flaky Biscuits, and I use the butter kind. I just like extra butter. Might as well, you know, holiday season, live it up. 3 cans of cream of chicken soup, just a regular 10.5 ounce. 3 cups approximately of shredded chicken. I use rotisserie, but you can use any chicken that you have left over from a dinner or the canned chicken, whatever you prefer. I use 1/4 teaspoon of thyme, 1 tablespoon of dehydrated onion, redehydrated. So I just warmed up a little bit of water in like a teacup and then put my onion in there, give it a few minutes to kind of kind of absorb that moisture. And then any excess I just drained out. I used 1 15-ounce can of diced potatoes, tiny little potatoes, and I drained all the liquid out. 1 can of the 15-ounce diced carrots and peas blend, and then I just drained the liquid. You can use frozen if you like, if you have fresh, whatever you prefer, or whatever you have in your pantry. A little bit of pepper. I didn't add any salt because the cream of chicken soup has enough sodium. You can use the reduced sodium, or if you want to use like cream of mushroom, whatever you prefer. And then I started off with my muffin tin. I smeared a little bit of butter on the bottom just for that added little flavor, and also helps the biscuit kind of release from your pan. I just mixed all the ingredients together. For this size, since these are small, I use a small muffin pan. I end up cutting the biscuit in half and then smushing the edges together and kind of smashing it down into the bottom, and it made the perfect size. For the full size, and there's a couple, in one of these, there's a couple of the regular size muffins. I just used the whole biscuit, just pressed that down into it, and allowed a little bit of that dough to kind of peek over the top, so it gives a little bit of that crust, that edge, to keep all your filling in, majority of the filling. And I just filled those, baked them for about 25 minutes, depending on your oven, depending on the pan size, so forth. So as long as they're nice and golden brown, and then take them out and enjoy. And that's it, easy peasy.